Good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Spiritist Society of Virginia on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock Inspirational Message. Our initial prayer today is taken from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, given to us by the Spirit Emmanuel through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Javier. And tonight's message is number 151, entitled Youthfulness. Paul, the second letter to Timothy, chapter 2, verse 22. Flee the desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace with those who call on the Lord with a pure heart. Emmanuel now writes, those who are involved with young people usually assign them so much power that they end up misguided, deceived, and careless. Too much is expected of them. We agree that young people do have incredible potential, but we need to remember that this phase of earthly existence is the one that requires the most guidance. Young people can and will do a lot if older and more experienced persons do not withhold their help in the work to be done. Young people cannot build anything new if they do not use the efforts of those who preceded them. In everything they do, they rely on their predecessors. Youth can be compared to the promising departure of a ship on an important voyage. Childhood was the preparation for it. Old age will be the arrival in port. Every phase of the trip requires lessons from experienced sailors to learn how to organize and finish it successfully. It is crucial to support the mentality of the young appropriately. However, no one should offer them promises of illusionary power. The desires of most young people do not always represent a future safe harbor. Young people may be able to do a lot, but in everything they should pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace with those who call on the Lord with a pure heart. A beautiful message. And I think one of the most important things about this is what was said earlier, which was don't expect too much from them and don't give them a lot of leeway or a lot of power, and always be in a position to allow them to try things, but to fail, and to remind them that nothing beats a failure but a success. So we are failing and succeeding, just like we talk about in Spiritism, effort and repetition. And the other thing is allowing them to do that stops or allows them to understand that life has its ups and downs. And is unfortunately nowadays packed with ups and downs. So let us not expect too much. Let us continue to guide our children and caution them to stay on the right track. Love God and love your neighbor.
Let us feel the presence of God always, all the time, even when we're having fun. Don't forget of God and Jesus, who is our loving Master and our guardian angels. Thank you, dear God, for bringing us together. We're so happy to be here amongst friends and to be here learning. The it's good to learn, and it's good to learn from our mistakes, from our difficulties. Thank you for sending always loving hands in both realms that envelop us in their kindness, in their mercy, the loving care. We rejoice knowing that we are here preparing ourselves for tasks, for challenges. May the lessons of today enter our minds and hearts. Never leave. We also pray for those who have their names in the book of prayer at the Spiritism Society of Virginia and Cardiac Radio. We hope that everyone feels the sure and abundant loving care that you provide. We know 100% that you never forsake us, and you only allow us to go through experiences for our progress. May we be faithful to you and seek the good always. And may tonight we strengthen ourselves with new understanding. We want to understand what we haven't done yet, what we haven't understood yet, so we can be better, happier, feeling your guidance and your protection. We rejoice in gratitude for your permission granted for this therapeutic session, and so be it. All right. We are going to soon open this here, but to bridge to the topic, as Paloma and Kara prepared for us, see this message here, youthfulness, right? That's when sometimes we end up making choices that may be detrimental to us sometimes, through impulses, right? So it's so interesting that we're going to talk about voluntary trials, and it talks about our will, our free will, our choices. So tonight we want to prepare our hearts for this study session by thinking. Not long ago, we were in the spiritual realm, and we said, filled with guilt. That's a sure thing. There is nobody, only Jesus on earth, who incarnated without feeling guilt. Everybody did because of the previous choices. And we were like, please, can I reincarnate? Please, please. And we were like begging. And many of us were prepared sometimes for 20, 30 years in the spiritual realm. And the good spirits selected the family group, everything, all the resources that we needed, and now we're here. And yet, we forget that soon we won't be here. Yeah, there's no death, but we're here in the flesh. And then we are not here in the flesh. But we keep on existing. And then, the consequences. So we want to talk about the things that we attract to our lives, that we have chosen, we forgot, and things we choose without thinking of the consequences. So we're going to share the screen here because Carol, who is with us, so she's back to her house, and here she is with us, right, Carol?
Right. Thank you, Vanessa. And
So pass the word to you, okay, Carol?
thank you, Vanessa.
Okay.
So, as Vanessa was telling us, we were very much prepared prior to reincarnating. And when we were still preparing ourselves, we often asked for challenges to come our way. Why so, we may wonder? Are we crazy? No, because in the spiritual realm, we have the lucidity to look at ourselves as spirits who are in need of certain experiences to develop immortal virtues. This is what the passage of the gospel entitled Voluntary Trials tells us. The spirit mentor writing in the gospel according to Spiritism reminds us that trials are meant to endanger intelligence as well as patience and resignation. So we are given trials not because God would like to punish us, not because God has favorites, not because God randomly picks who will face difficulties. No, quite the contrary. It is because God often grants us our own choices prior to reincarnating that we are faced with challenges. Let us illustrate with an example. There is an account psychographed through Chico Xavier of a person who, a spirit, who in the spiritual realm writes a letter to the higher realm mentors asking to reincarnate as a blind person, a person with severe physical limitations that is unable to express himself because of his previous life guilt. So the spirit writing through Chico Xavier, Humberto de Campos, goes and examines the letter from this reincarnating spirit. And in talking to the mentors in charge of this case, we find out that God's mercy is so overwhelmingly loving that none of the trials that that spirit chose for himself came into being because God said to that reincarnating spirit, no, you don't need to go as far as reincarnating without physical vision. No, you don't need to go as far as facing physical limitations. No. As a matter of fact, you are going to reincarnate in a well structured family. You're going to have the financial resources you need. You're going to have intelligence. You're going to have all that you need. And then the mentors told the reincarnating spirit, all we ask of you is that you devote yourself at least 1 hour per day to spiritist work and to work on benefit of others while reincarnated. And this reincarnating spirit very gratefully said, wow, we will take the offer. So the spirit reincarnates, and many decades later, Humberto de Campos goes looking for him because there is a family in great need that would benefit from his mediumistic abilities and charitable services through a spiritist center to which he was affiliated. But come to find out that he, after having worked only for 2 years in that particular Spiritist center and having agreed to work on it for decades, after having worked for 2 years, he claimed to feel tired and to no longer wish to give of himself to others, because after all, he would need to prioritize his family first. So, this, dear friends, is an example of a voluntary trial. According to the gospel and Spiritism here, we create voluntary trials for ourselves when we give in to indifference, as this reincarnating spirit did. He said no to the task, the redemptive task that he himself was given, while he was invited by God to only dedicate 1 hour of his day, 7 days a week, to other people and to the benefit of others. He gave up only after 2 years. Why? Says the gospel here, indifference and laziness. So, how many times we have good ideas that would benefit the general good, and we say to ourselves, oh no, right now it's too late. We have too much to do. How about dinner? How about our family? How about our to do list at work? And we postpone it, postpone doing the good to others. According to the gospel, this is when we create a heavier burden on ourselves than necessary, because we truly know in our conscience that we reincarnated to learn, to love, and to serve. So when we prioritize only our own needs as well as the needs of our family and co-workers, we are being selfish. And when we are selfish, we run the risk of falling into indifference. This is how we create voluntary trials for ourselves, because our consciousness will scream with guilt and will drive us to making not so healthy choices, spiritually speaking. Let us give all of us another example before we pass the word to our dear Paloma, who is going to tell us more about the types of trials that we may experience on earth. Another example that we would like to bring to our attention is another account by Humberto de Campos through Chico Xavier, where Humberto de Campos visited a spiritist center on the earth, and together with the mentors, they inspired the directors of that center to create a campaign for charitable works and for the gospel, the spreading of the gospel of Jesus on television. Although the idea was well received by some of the board of directors in that center, others refused to follow through the idea, claiming that using social media, multimedia to spread the word of the Christ would only result in vanity. So, because these workers of the spiritual center being described refused to accept the proposal to spread the good, the result was a particular person that the mentors were trying to help to get out of alcoholism couldn't be helped, because the mentors were planning to have a short program about the gospel to be aired at a particular time on national television so that person who was in greater need would not watch an ad about alcoholic beverages. But because those particular individuals said no to the proposal to spread the general good, because they gave in to indifference and laziness, they incurred in a voluntary trial. When is it that it is okay for us to sacrifice ourselves? According to the gospel, anytime we are given a challenge, we are meant to sacrifice ourselves in terms of effort to find a solution. And that if we give of ourselves, our time, our intelligence, our abilities on behalf of others, then we are truly progressing because we are giving of ourselves not for ourselves alone, but for the general good. So, this is the direction that the mentor spirits invite us all to take. When we are faced with challenges, we are invited to see them as opportunities to grow and to serve. And now, our dear Paloma is going to break down a little more about the kinds of trials that are brought to us on the earth, not because of lack of love on the part of God, but because God believes that we can always progress. So let us now pass the word to our dear Paloma.
Thank you, Carol. Dear friends, we have been studying chapter 5, which is Blessed are the Afflicted. All different types of affliction. Questions we have. Why do we have afflictions? Why do we have certain types of afflictions? Do we choose these afflictions? And that's where we are today. Voluntary trials. And in the gospel, Carol opened up for us, teasing us with these stories. The good spirit that wrote this, called the guardian angel. Whose guardian angel? Ours. Of course, even though it's a message from 1863, it's our guardian angel bringing to us such important question. He's asked, so if we need to come to this planet, we know planet Earth is a school. It's a planet of trial and expiation. All right, we need to go through some things. He asked, is there any merit in seeking afflictions, thereby increasing trials by means of voluntary suffering? So is there any credit for us to, let's say, suffer? We'll go through some examples. It's not as bad as it seems, but we're using his words. Suffering. Is there any merit? He says yes. And he also says no. Of course, there's a yes and a no because we have free will. There is always the right and the wrong. We have to choose. When do we have merit? When we suffer. When we suffer for others. And the examples are so beautiful because these are things we hopefully do day in and day out. Small. There are big sufferings too. But the good spirits bring to us something real. He says, when you have a warm plate of food and somebody needs that plate, you give it. That is suffering. You're hungry too. You also want to eat, but somebody needs more than us, and we give it. Parents, a great example. How many times we want to eat? The child goes first. Hopefully we're making a choice to prioritize others. When we come to the center, now bringing to our day-to-day, and we are giving of ourselves, can we call this suffering? I hardly imagine this being suffering. I think we're being blessed that we're here. But we are benefiting the greater good instead of being home doing whatever. When is it doesn't have credit? When we're doing something that only is for us. So if we're saying, oh, I'm suffering because, I have to stay home and clean, and today I'm not going to go to the center. You think you're suffering because you have to clean the house, but there's no merit. Because we try to think, right? Even Jesus, with Martha and Mary. Jesus right there, sitting with them. And one chooses to go clean and cook, and thinking she needs to please Jesus. But the merit was to stay with him, not to get like busy. So when we give of ourselves, that's charity. And charity, we know, has huge merits. When we choose to do something for others and we sacrifice ourselves, big credits. And we're thankful to the gospel to bring that to us because we're looking for those credit points, right? We want, like Andrea Luiz, bonus hours. We want to work more. We want to be aligned. Why do we have these trials? Because for many lives, including this one, we keep saying, oh, it's from past lives. A lot of our trials are due to our current life. We were at some point we were misaligned with the divine laws, and now we have to come back, fix. And that's okay. We sacrifice of ourselves. We are less selfish. And when we are less selfish, we prioritize others. We make choices that benefits the majority. And in the gospel, they bring something so beautiful to say that even our body, we have to care for it as it is also part of this trial to have this tool. And if we don't, it says if we weaken our body, if we make choices that are not to prioritize, it is true suicide. It says to needlessly weaken it, so our body, it is true suicide. Intentionally torturing and murdering your body is an infringement of the law of God. So, okay, we in the United States are in a country that there is plenty of food. There are other types of suffering, but food is plenty. Would we say that the gospel is saying, take it easy, prioritize your body by not overwhelming it? It seems like suffering. Oh my God, I want to eat that cake. I've been thinking about it. And yes, we laugh, but it is serious. Our choices regarding our body, an instrument that God gave to us, we weaken the body, is true suicide. And then, friends, we say, or the gospel says, the guardian angel, he says, question for us, okay, so we have these trials, we come, we chose them, some of us chose them, and we can pick them, it's wealth, it's family, beauty, vanity, which is everywhere. We come with a range of things that we have to fix. And we might think, well, the way to do this is not to be exposed to it. Okay, I'm going to isolate myself, and that way I won't make another mistake. That might be easier, right? We might say, well, if I'm at home and I'm not out in the world and talking to people and working, or with my family members, I won't say the wrong thing, so I won't accumulate more karma, and there you go. Not so much. The guardian angel asks the question, you who retire from the world in order to avoid its seductions and to live in isolation, what is your usefulness? Aha. Let's break it down. So instead of us thinking that we are protecting ourselves, in all reality, we are being selfish, which is the source of all the vices. Everything starts with selfishness. When we think that we are protecting ourselves, we're actually doing more harm, because we were meant to come. We were meant to be together. We were meant to develop deeper relationships. We were meant to interact. We're social beings. We just proved that after 2 years of the pandemic, how much we need to be together. We're not supposed to be, after the pandemic, isolated at home, and that's what we do. It's the opposite. We come back together. Because being home is actually very selfish. And selfish is in the Spirit's book. What is the problem of humanity? Selfishness. Why can't we advance faster? Why can't we get to the planet of regeneration? Selfishness. How do we combat selfishness? Charity. Charity, according to Spiritism, is benevolence to everyone. It is not just to give money. That is not charity. Because again, we're not giving of ourselves. We're not sacrificing. We're not choosing this voluntary trial, which is keeping our ego small and let everything around us shine. And this is what the guardian angel tells us, the recommendation from the good spirits. What do we do? He says, mortify your spirit and not your flesh. Whip your pride. Receive humiliation without complaint. Flog your selfishness and harden yourselves against the pain of insult and slander, more pungent than bodily pain. So it's not easy. He's not saying it's easy at all. He's using harsh words, flog, harden yourselves against pain, insult, slander. But that's what we need to do. This is true sackcloth resignation, whose wounds will be taken into account because they will testify to your courage and submission to God's will. And just for us to finalize, dear friends, when we talk about the true sackcloth, resignation. We need to make a distinction between resignation and laziness. We might go through these trials and say, okay, I'm going through suffering. This is it. I'll sit back and let it be. That is not resignation. That's actually laziness. Maybe fear, a combination of it. We're paralyzed. We're doing nothing. Resignation is actually quite active. We understand what's happening. We're doing self-analysis. We are trying to pinpoint where the issues are. We're working on it. It is not a process that is passive whatsoever. It's the very opposite. We are trying hard. A lot of times I've heard from Mentor Joseph here in the center to say, for example, oh, we are ill, something's going on. You know what he says? Go serve others. Because the act of serving or the act of healing is active. God doesn't want us just to go through these trials hidden in a closet somewhere. God is saying, you can do it. You have the resources you need. You're with the people you need. And there's more on the way because there's always resources that God is sending and getting us up and lifting us up and saying, you will win this. You will conquer this. God just wants us to be available and not lazy, using our time to do whatever other than what God is saying. Come on, you can do it. So today for us, this call to look at our trials very differently. Not trials that put us down, but trials that lift us up. Trials that we can today say, I can do it. God wants us to do it. So we're here for it. And of course, we have blessed Spiritism to teach us that we are not being punished, that we are not somewhere that we're not supposed to be, that, everybody else in the world is their problem. Like, Spiritism is here saying something that happened to us, we're no victims. We study, we reflect, we look into ourselves, and we move on. Always looking forward. We bless the past, but our future is going to be so much better. This trial is just one more, and there's going to be another one, until we get to our guiding model, Jesus. The one that came to this planet to show to us how to go through trials. And oh my God, his trial was above and beyond what any of us will ever go through. None of us will ever go through what Jesus went through. And of course, he had nothing to expiate. It was just to demonstrate to us what it is to resign in God and live life according to the divine laws. So we'll leave you with that, and we'll prepare ourselves for the passes.
Welcome to the Virtual Passes Room. Emmanuel, the spirit mentor of Chico Xavier, once stated that thought is life. Thus, we can create the healing mental state right here and now. In preparation for the virtual passes, we would kindly recommend the following. Be certain that you have a real need to receive passes. Do not use the room simply out of curiosity. Casual visits to the room will negate its future benefits when needed. When using the room, have gratitude and show respect as you would when visiting a physical spiritist center. During the passes, silently evoke God's protection as well as Jesus. Also pray to your guardian angel. Concentrate on positive thoughts, thereby avoiding negative ones. Breathe deeply, slowly, calmly, and confidently. Always be ready to pray. Let us begin this passes session by praying as our guide and model Jesus Christ has taught us. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now let us feel that small points of suffering, bitterness, sadness, anger, deception disappear from your mind, not to return. Like aged leaves that are shed from trees, let go of those feelings no longer serve you, and gently, but most assuredly, discard them. Let the wind of life carry them so far away that they are unable to return and create their negative link. Little by little, your emotional tree sheds its negative feelings, becoming clean and ready for its renovation. Without the weight of those dead leaves, you feel lighter and you're able to feel the gentle water of life now abundantly falling onto your physical body, spiritual body, and soul. This water cleans, disinfects, purifies, deconstructs, and tones all the cells of your body. Nothing can escape its renewing action. At the same time, it is cleaning and moisturizing your body. This crystalline liquid satiates your spirit, eliminating affliction, anxiety, and unrest. Now, within your heart resides a sense of calmness, cleanness, and well-being. Then, the light of God emerges to warm and snuggle you, while carrying rays penetrate your whole body and tenderly embrace you like a maternal hug, which brings comfort and safety to your heart. At this moment, great love warms your heart and removes the coldness resulting from any affliction. Now, your mind contains only feelings of joy and confidence. You are at peace and enveloped by a protective warmth. The heart of life offers you perfumed flowers. Then, with grateful and happy soul, you gather their colorful petals that penetrate your whole being, restoring feelings and emotions of happiness, hope, faith, courage, and determination helping you to regain the willingness to live. In addition to the perfume and color, nature also shares with you the best it has to offer, an infinite capacity for restoring its sublime beauty, even when struck by evil that appears to enact its end. Divine hands full of light gently overflow and spill all over you like a golden waterfall of unspeakable and unknown essence. Little by little, your soul is impregnated with sweet happiness, allowing an inner renewal of the most noble and elevated purposes that are of progress and accomplishment. Showered by this sublime power, you deeply surrender to the donor of light, absorbing energy that now gives your life a new and blessed impulse. You called me, and here I am. What do you want from me today? What do you need? Ask, my son. Ask, my daughter. I am here to help. Now, ask your special request to Jesus, enumerating the problems and difficulties that afflict you. I listen to your request with love and attention. Now I count on your faith and trust in me to solve your problems. Go in peace. I am watching over you, and I will not lose sight of you. Believe in God and also believe in me. I will be with you every day until the end. Be happy. Many blessings.
Let us take this moment to pray, staying where we are until the end of the prayer, and expressing our gratitude to the spirit doctors, nurses, and therapists for their precious time, for their devotion. We thank you, Master Jesus, for inspiring us to overcome our selfishness, to think of other people's needs. And we pray at this moment for those who are suffering immensely and cannot find the thousands of resources that are surrounding them because they are blind. They take for granted helping hands, and that's the most difficult suffering. We pray for them that they open their eyes and realize how many loving arms, hands, hearts. And we raise our thoughts to you, praising God for life. May tonight be transformative in our reflections as we go back home, fully aware of the duties to be fulfilled inside of us. May we be less selfish today than yesterday, and tomorrow less selfish than today. And thus be closer to you and in greater harmony. And so be it. All right. Thank you, friends. Should you have any question, let us know.